let me just give you a brief background on from my side as a moderator, what actually has happened in 2020 and how we are looking at future leading up to 2030. So I will not take much of time. It's not a presentation, so will be brief, but bear with me. So if you look at current situation, and as we started the year, and we have seen a turmoil in the industry, not only in dairy, but in overall food and agri situation globally and in India. And as initially mentioned, dairy has seen impact. Being part of essential commodity, it has actually had some you can say benefit in terms of supply chain maintenance. At least as a consumer, we have been receiving liquid milk at our household or even delivering to nearby neighborhood store, which we haven't seen for many of the other products, including food and other stuff. So clearly that way we have seen some kind of mitigant for dairy industry, but there has been a significant impact in some part of the value chain, also on some product categories and in some channels also. So if we talk about channel itself, starting with B2B, we have seen significant impact on food services and institutional sale. Initially, during lockdown, during Corona, immediately like March end and leading up to June first week when the unlocking started, we had significant impact on B2B. We still have some impact. It's in the recovery mode, and we look at maybe fully recovery or near to normal recovery by end of March next year. That also depends on how the infection will be contained. But still, I think it's clearly on recovery path. At least we look at online delivery model that is growing in India, or in fact, looking at different kind of options on the retail side also coming in, or digitization of the value chain is happening. So clearly there is a lot of new channels are emerging, which are leading to some kind of benefit, or maybe you can say shift towards strategy, shift in strategy for some of the business stakeholders. So this is what we have seen on the B2B side. B2C is clearly getting benefited over time. Immediately after lockdown, there was immediate impact, supply chain disruptions, logistics issues, labor shortages. So that actually led to some issues in product reaching to the retail stores or mom and pop stores. But over the time after unlocking in June, we have seen significant steady growth coming in the retail side. More and more consumer-led retail growth is happening on the dairy side. Particularly if you look at packaged liquid milk, we are seeing growth. At home consumption is increasing. We are looking at growth in UHT, basically convenient categories, ready to eat, ready to drink, and ready to cook. Those kind of segments are growing at home, at household level. So those kind of segments we have seen growth. A few of the impacted categories, of course, cheese linked to food services. So half of the sales are coming in from food services. So we have seen significant impact on cheese sales initially, like at least 3 to 6 months. In the first and second quarter, there was a significant impact, though it's recovering now, as I mentioned, for food services. So it will take some time for the cheese B2B or food service part to recover. However, on the B2C side, there has been good growth over last year. Ice cream, another impulse category. So we have seen that kind of segment getting a major impact during the initial first 2 quarters. A bit of recovery happening on that front. Lastly, on skim milk powder side. So if you look at the supply chain disruptions leading to some of the companies now moving towards durable products. So a lot of skim milk powder and ghee is being manufactured. And so we have seen SMP inventory being built up in India. So that will remain a bit of challenge in terms of how to dispose of. I think that's going to be one of the industry possible concern going forward, how to look at maybe an outlet in export side, which is right now some of the companies are discussing. In fact, one of the state governments have already given subsidy for that. So those kind of things, I think, may help to some extent in creating some kind of channel for selling skim milk powder that could be benefiting the industry. So this is on the demand side. A brief on supply. And like what I mentioned on disruptions happening on the downstream. So upstream also we have seen some changes happening. So informal to formal market transition has been happening in India, from intermediaries, individuals towards corporates, private companies and cooperatives. And during the COVID time, lockdown time, there has been a severe disruption at the farm level in terms of intermediaries going out of the business. So farmers were not having any option but to go to private dairy company and cooperative village collection point. And in fact, some of these companies are flush with milk during that time. with raw milk. So that transition actually has been happening at the farm level. We have seen some recovery at informal channel. Some of the intermediaries now coming back in the market. So, but again, what we are looking at, it's slow, delayed, and partial recovery. So this is going to benefit basically more of the large players or integrators having direct touch points at farm level, cooperatives and large private companies having direct engagement with farmers. So this is on the supply side. And like Prachi mentioned initially, around 187 million tons, what we looked at in 2019 FY 2019. So we are looking at still crossing 200 million tons by the end of this year, by March end. So basically roughly around 3% growth last year and roughly around 3% or maybe slightly less than that this year as well, in spite of the issues that we have seen. Supply, of late, we have seen a bit of tightness because farmer prices have gone down. Earlier, they were ruling at around, if I look at an example of Maharashtra, more than 30 rupees per liter during the peak times, like in January. And it came down to around 21, 20 rupees per liter around April, May. And now it's around 24, 25 rupees for many months, actually. In between, it has gone up, but again, stabilized around 25 rupees per liter. So farmers haven't got that kind of realization as what they received early this year or late last year. So there has been a bit of change in the basic feeding pattern to the animal. So kind of very basic feed given to them, leading to reduced milk yield and reduced milk production at the onset of flush season this year. Unlike what we see in normally every year, flush season starts with a bang. It hasn't been the case this time. So a bit of slight tightness in milk supplies, but we are right now into the flush. So we see still milk supply building up, and that will actually lead up to more and more possibly powder inventory coming in. So that's linked to the powder prices. Initially 320 to 350 rupees per kg when we were looking at January. In fact, we were in deficit that time, and some of the industry stakeholders were speaking to the government to allow import of powder. However, within few months, it has turned upside down. Prices actually went down by 50% and around 170, 160 rupees. Now it's hovering between 170 to 195 rupees. Again, basically a slight uplift because of tightness in the raw milk side. But again, I do think that prices will remain around this side unless we see some outlet coming in, possibly in export that we are still looking at as an option. Maybe it will be in the next quarter. So that may lead to slight upliftment of powder prices in the market in the next quarter or by the end of next quarter. So this is on the supply side. Prices also I have mentioned. A few trends I will just talk about briefly. So transition from informal to formal I discussed, will not go much into detail. Now we are looking at integration and consolidation also. So integration in the sense that now we see there have been challenges for the companies who are largely focused on B2B. So now there is a concerted effort to focus on B2C side to develop retail infrastructure, distribution network, developing your own brand, getting into diversified portfolio, including value-added dairy products. So this is how we are looking at on the downstream side, the changes coming in, the transition or the trend coming in. If you look at backward side on the upstream, so clearly we are looking at more farmer engagement. This was kind of happening in the last 5 years, 10 years. We have seen this kind of activity at formal level, but it has actually taken a more, you can say it's happening at a more quick rate now compared to what we have seen in previous years. So we will see more of these corporates, companies looking to invest in procurement infrastructure at farm level, developing their linkage at farm level, also getting input service provider with them, including feed, nutrition, genetics, or healthcare services. So this is going to actually create more integration, more collaborated approach at supply chain level between the dairy processors and also the supply chain providers, including service providers, to support farmers and also to look at tapping new consumers for value-added dairy products. A few points on consumer trends. Work from home is more accepted at in the cities. We can see even in tier 2, tier 3, many of the cities, it's an accepted trend now at employer level, at employee level. So we do see this trend coming as in retaining its importance in coming years. And that will drive the role of convenient category for all the food products, including dairy. So what I initially mentioned, ready to drink, ready to eat, ready to cook kind of segment comfort, convenience segment will grow. Nutrition, hygiene, safe, all this word put together, I think that's going to be the new focus area for many of the companies in terms of channel, in terms of delivery, in terms of product. So I believe in the packaging segment is also going to get benefited. More of processing towards value-added segment will drive innovation. That will also lead to packaging innovations as well. So this is actually going to get a trend towards wherein we'll see more business response coming in from the industry. E-commerce transformation supply chain is another part we are looking at. So it's not true only for dairy, for many of the segment that we have seen. So in the dairy side, we have seen some companies actually having third-party partnership for driving their last mile approach, or having their own online setup to reach to the farmers directly. So these kind of to the industry, to the consumers. So this is basically we are looking at different kind of approaches to reach consumers. So this is in nutshell about 2020. Just a few points on 2030 before we will go to the panel. And 2030, we are looking at, I mentioned about demand side. So we'll go with demand, looking at strong growth again. And discounting this year, strong demographic, whether to do with increasing per capita income or strong demographic part, strong demographic and economic prospects. So per capita, or it can be urbanization, or it can be basically young consuming population in India. So we do see more and more growth happening for demand side for dairy products. So that's going to remain for next 5 to 10 years. Supply, as I mentioned, investment in procurement infrastructure will be key. So we have seen that kind of push coming in, and this COVID crisis, unfortunately, in a way, but ultimately it will be driving more focus from the corporates to focus more on investment in procurement infrastructure. I will see more private investment coming in this side across India in different locations. Finally, on the trend side, the part that I just mentioned, so focus on quality products is going to lead companies to have an integrated approach. So this will lead to more sustainable approach in terms of finding solutions at farm level, working in collaboration with service providers, solution providers, and finally finding different channels to tap consumers. So this is in a nutshell, we are looking at how the market would be going to be up to 2030. Numbers may vary in terms of different estimates, so we'll not go much into how much numbers will be achieving in 2030. But we are looking at a positive growth and positive situation scenario for Indian dairy industry leading up to 2030.